Well, hello again, and thank you for joining me for our holiday editions of Vena Teaches. And I like to focus on encouragement right now. So, this is a great, encouraging story that I want to tell you about that probably you know a little something about, but you may not know the Christmas miracle part of this story. Now, I've got to tell you, we're outside at Everettville here at the house, and so I just letting you know that the dog is out here too, and he has been very vocal tonight. So if you hear him barking, that is Big Ike, named after Dwight D. Eisenhower. But anyway, I wanted to tell you about George Washington and his Christmas miracle, and how his Christmas miracle kept the Continental Army going so that they could continue the fight for independence against Great Britain. So let me set the stage for what is happening. You've all heard, I'm sure, of the crossing of the Delaware. You've seen the iconic uh, painting of George Washington on the boat, and he's standing up and looking so generalish, and everything there, and everyone adoringly looking at him and heading towards their destination. I can probably guarantee you that he was not standing on that boat because it was icy in the river. It was very cold. It was a bad night, snowy, bad weather of them trying to cross the Delaware. Now, why are they trying to get across the Delaware River? Okay, here's the backstory. Just FYI and a refresher. Remember that in July of 1776, the colonists, led by a group of people known as the Sons of Liberty. Now, these are your heavy hitters. These are your Sam Adams, John Hancock, John Adams. This is George Washington, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison. These are the big dogs, okay, have formed the Paul Revere. They've made the Sons of Liberty. They've tried peacefully to break with Great Britain. Great Britain will have nothing of it. And they have decided, hey, we are going to declare our independence, and we are guessing that Great Britain is going to fight us on it. So in July of 1776, we celebrated on the 4th. It was the 7th. Oh, it was the 9th. Oh, it was just July 1776. I'm not going to get into a big historical debate on that, okay? Now, so if Great Britain is going to fight us on it, then you need an army to fight. And if you got an army, you got to have someone who's the general in charge of the army. So George Washington is made the general of the Continental Army, and the people kind of running the show are known as the Continental Congress. Now, when these men who switch over to being part of the Continental Army, they were in the militia. A militia is a group of volunteer soldiers who, when the tavern bell starts a ringing, they come running ready to fight, like Minutemen. So they had to transition from militia, who's volunteer. They've got other jobs. They're farmers, merchants, whatever. They don't do full-time military. So they've got to take them, train them, and get them ready to fight. Now, one thing that you need to remember, a lot of times people forget, George Washington, y'all, he was a member of the British military. He was an officer in the British military. He has left the military to fight against Great Britain. His former colleagues, the lot stayed in. So there's a story within the story within the story. And one of the men who is the general of the British forces, his name is William Howe. And he and George Washington were kind of at each other from beginning to end. the war within the war. They both wanted their side to win, but if they could beat each other to do it, then that just makes the victory even sweeter. We all have our little wars within the war. We have if you say you don't, then you are telling it all tale, because we all have somebody that well, my score was a little higher than Sally Sue's or Billy Bob's, or we all have our little war within the war because we're human beings. But so Howe's job, who's the British general, is to capture the Congress. He wants to you capture the capital, which is a moving capital now because they're having to run. You capture the capital, it's like playing capture the flag. The chances of winning skyrocket. Okay. So George Washington is trying, and his men are trying to protect Congress, and they have signed up to serve through the remainder of the year. So I would put that at about a 6-month contract. Come December 31st, they'd have to re-up. Okay, they've gone from militia to paid. They didn't get paid very well, and they didn't get paid very much, and sometimes they didn't get paid at all. Okay. On December 31st of 1776, these guys' contracts are up and they can go home. But George Washington has been trying to protect the Continental Congress. They've been moving all around New York, Long Island, all that stuff. Long story short, okay, he is able to get the Continental Congress to escape from Long Island, New York. He's got them across the Delaware River with Trenton, New Jersey on one side. And he's, do you see my little sidekick who just jumped up here, Big Ike? Can you say something, Big Ike? Oh, he can't. He was talking earlier. So his men have retreated. They are not the aggressors here. They have only been able to defend themselves. And one of the things that they are having the most trouble with is a group of soldiers that the British have hired. Now, these soldiers that the British have hired, okay, they are Hessians, and Hessians are mercenaries. A mercenary is a soldier for hire. Is a professional soldier, doesn't have a loyalty to a particular country or so, like our military is the American military. These are professional soldiers that hire out to, I guess, the highest bidder. And Hessians are mercenaries who come from Germany, and they will fight with whoever. Now, y'all listen. I always call this the sprinkles on the cake and the extra icing. All right, with my students, that's what we talk about, that it's just a little bit extra. You want to pile on the Continental Army. If you're Great Britain, you are the strongest military in the world. They've got 5 gazillion people over here with everything they could possibly need, want to fight. Okay, that's enough. And then they have to haul off and hire Hessians to come. That's like putting like this and then just taking salt and throwing in the wound. Hey, it's not enough for us to beat you, but we're going to bring the Hessians and they're going to beat you too, because see, the Hessians, they can fudge a little bit on the rules of war. Rules of war? Yeah, rules of war. There's some things you aren't supposed to do. When someone's surrendering and they've put down their weapons and you've got your hands up, you don't kill them. You don't shoot the drummer boy. You don't kill the medic. You don't kill the priest, the rabbi, the reverend. You just don't do that. And there's fixing to be a rule of war that's really important that we're going to talk about here in a minute. So here's the deal. George Washington has commandeered these boats, gotten his men across the Delaware, and they are freezing in December of 1776. And William Howe says, I'm just going to kick back over here in Trenton. Okay, this is a family show, but I will say that General Howe did have a young lady that he was seeing on a very consistent basis. You can just go ahead and whatever your brain wants to go to, that's fine. But this is a family. I'm going to be PG and say that they had a very involved relationship. But anyway, so he's waiting in Trenton, and he's waiting for two things. Either A, I'm going to just wait for the river to freeze over and we'll march across there and take George Washington and his men. Or come December 31st, these guys, their contract's up. You think they've lost every battle? They haven't been paid. There's no food. People are sick. They've seen their best buddy killed in action. Do you really think they're going to stay around? All we got to do is just wait till spring. This thing's over. Why am I going to put myself at risk? And his men aren't going to do anything because they're just going to sit back and stay alive. He kind of has a point, doesn't he? Are you really going to go into battle when it's December 25th? When there's, 6 days left to stay alive? Hey, here's what George Washington did. He finds out that there's Hessians that have just gotten to Trenton to train, 2,000, and they have enough rations and food and ammo and blankets and supplies and everything that Washington does not have, the Hessians have, and he wants it. And he knows that no one is expecting an attack now. It is Christmas. Another rule of war is that you do not attack on a religious holiday. That's kind of hands off. And guys, this is the Germans, the British, the colonists, the French. If you're in Europe, you're Judeo-Christian. Okay? I mean, they're all celebrating Christmas. Now, you're not going to attack on Christmas. But there's something you can do on Christmas. Now, here's the deal. Over in Europe, now I'm saying from my experience, okay, it could be totally different. I might have just had some outer worldly experience. But when I've been in Germany on Christmas Day, arrived on Christmas Day, and that was all the hoopla. See, I don't know about y'all, but Christmas Eve at our house, not this year, obviously, but in the past, Christmas Eve is the woohoo, and everybody's eating and drinking and having a big time and staying up late and way too late. And then it's just, that's the party. And then Christmas morning, you're, have an intravenous drip of coffee, caffeine trying to keep you up. And then you have probably your next obligatory family meal. Love my family, but y'all know how it works. You see everybody on Christmas Eve. Then you got to see everybody again on Christmas Day. And then by about 2:30 or 3, you are wiped out. And there ain't much happening on Christmas Day in the afternoon, probably after 3 p.m. But that's not the way the Germans do this. Okay, so here's what George Washington comes up with. He says, look, guys, we're not going to attack on Christmas Day. I'm not doing it. We're going to start taking our men when night falls on Christmas Day on the 25th. On the night of the 25th, we're going to send the men over and over and over, and the fishermen are going to take them back and over and over. And on the morning of the 26th, after the Germans have been eating and drinking and making merry and having their Christmas, probably very hungover, comatose from the night before, we will, as he says, rouse them from their beds. They will not expect an attack of this nature, and we will take the lot. And everyone looked at them and went, no, I don't, I don't think that's going to work. But guess what? He said, we're doing it. If I have to go alone and ride into there by myself to fight, I will do it. So the men go across, and at 8 a.m., the sign or the signal for the attack is given, and George Washington was right. The Hessians were surprised. They couldn't believe they were being attacked. That's never happened to them. And because they are such a rigid group of soldiers, they don't know how to fight when they're not in their formations. And, if you're not accustomed to losing, it's kind of hard to rally sometimes. We've seen that with teams, and you might have been on a team that's always won, and when you're losing, you're like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Here's the miraculous part. There's several. Part A, they win. They achieve surprise. They attack the Hessians. It works. They take the ones that aren't killed, they take them prisoner, and they have more stuff to last them all throughout the spring. Miracle 2, or Part B, not one life of George Washington's men was lost. Not one person died of his men, of his troops that said, you know what, George Washington, we respect you, we love you, we really don't want to die 5-6 days before we're getting ready to get out of here, but if you ask us to go, we're going to go. And third, the third miracle is they make it back across, and every single one of those boys sign up to stay in the Continental Army, thus galvanizing the effort, getting the Continental Congress back on board, and then they carry on through to defeat the British years later. But that Christmas miracle is what kept the Continental Army afloat and was able to bring about a great victory for George Washington and his men. I love that story. It is cleverness. We aren't going to attack on Christmas, but we'll get into the position to be able to attack on the day after. Being clever, stayed within the rules, but used the rules in his favor. Now, there are Christmas miracles everywhere, and sometimes we aren't even aware. I hope you'll look for them. I hope this is a great story of encouragement, something fun to learn. And I will be back with you on Christmas Eve with a Christmas Eve cocktail, and we're going to have some encouragement on that day too. I hope you have a good evening, and I hope you have a blessed day tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in.